or lease from in the morning.
Welcome to another edition of Breaking Badger News. I am your host, as always, the jaundice-skinned Simpsons kin, although I am turning ever white by the day because of how bloody cold it is outside. But you don't really care about that fact. I'm assuming we have more American viewers than Canadian viewers, and it's so much worse up here than it is down there. Anyways, unless you live in Pennsylvania. I have a co-host that's going to be talking about this upcoming topic with me. She who must be obeyed. Karen Strawn. Karen.
That's me. She who must be obeyed. I really love the sound of that.
Happy New Year, by the way.
And to you too. You're going to say, I hope it was a good one. I hope it was a great one. And all I can say is my entire house had the flu all through the Christmas season. So it can only get better from this point. That's all I'm saying.
I can't really sympathize with you because I got to live with jaundice. But even though Brian says I'm not jaundiced, but...
Well, not compared to any other Simpsons kin, so.
Right. All the other Simpsons kin have hepatitis. We got to talk about this one issue that's come up over the last 48 hours. So, James Damore, the Damore Strikes Back, that's what we're going to be titling this particular episode. James Damore, obviously we know him from the infamous Google memo that he wrote, where he, according to, I think it was Vice, he's arguing that women are biologically inferior, which isn't true. But anyways, he has filed a class action lawsuit against his former employer, Google, alleging that conservative employees at Google are, quote, ostracized, belittled, and punished. The lawsuit alleges that numerous Google managers maintained blacklists of conservative employees with whom they refused to work. No, I'm not kidding. We're going to get into more detail with that in a second. It also alleges that Google has created a, quote, protected, distorted bubble of groupthink in trying to promote diversity and social justice. Included in this lawsuit, this is the most damning material within, are 100 pages of screenshots involving employees discussing politics online. One post from the manager stated his intention to silence certain perspectives. Here's a particular quote from that particular manager. There are certain alternative views, including different political views, which I do not want people to feel safe to share here. You can believe that women or minorities are unqualified all you like, but if you say it out loud, then you deserve what's coming to you. Except that's not at all what he said, you dumbass.
Yeah.
One shared a meme of a penguin with the following text. If you want to increase diversity at Google, fire all the bigoted white men.
God.
Yeah. In the lawsuit, this meme was filed under a heading titled Anti-Caucasian Postings. So, normally I would just think, okay, well, that might be a little bit overzealous, but how much stuff do you have to have there if you need to have an entire heading with that title?
Yeah.
But no, we still have a little bit more here. One manager is quoted as posting, I keep a written blacklist of people whom I will never allow on or near my team based on how they view and treat their coworkers. That blacklist got a little longer today. And that blacklist, allegedly, contains people like Curtis Yarvin, also known as Mencius Moldbug, never heard of him. But I'm sure, like me, you've heard of people like Alex Jones and Theodore Beale, also known as Vox Day. Another screenshot reveals a manager proposing the creation of a list of people who make diversity difficult, quote unquote, and weighing the possibility that individuals could have something resembling a trial before being included. Wow, it's almost like, when Lindsay Shepard faced a social justice inquisition. That wasn't an isolated incident. Oh, and one more thing. One email from a fellow employee to Damore said the following, quote, I will keep hounding you until one of us is fired.
Isn't that a threat to harass?
Yeah, but I suppose if you have the wrong opinions and you're a white guy, it doesn't fucking matter.
I guess not.
And to conclude, Rachel Whetstone, former senior vice president of communications and public policy at Google, included a message with the lawsuit to, I suppose, add to its credibility. Quote, it seems like we believe in free expression except when people disagree with the majority view. I have lost count of the times at Google, for example, people tell me privately that they cannot admit their voting choice if they are Republican because they fear how other Googlers react. End quote.
Well, of course.
Fuck.
Of course that's what's going on. I did read a piece on this situation that said that, basically the statute or the tort or whatever that he's suing under, the body of laws that he's suing under is not a good choice. It's less likely to be successful than taking a different approach. I mean, you have although UNRWA is fairly strong in California in terms of, yes, you can actually get redress when men are discriminated against or when whites are discriminated against in California under UNRWA. But what I find, I think this may be a strategic choice in terms of getting the most sort of media bang for his buck. If he was just suing for wrongful dismissal on his own behalf based on the California law that prohibits companies from punishing employees for taking a certain political action or refusing to take a certain political action, it would be just him. But he wants to actually get into the meat of the matter, which is not just about politics in general, but is about this particular form of politics that's infested Google and a lot of other companies in Silicon Valley as well. So I think that this may be a strategic move on his part, where he's going to risk losing the case. It's going to be more of a risk, but it's going to actually get more attention on the problem in the public eye. So I think that that's probably why they went this way.
And hey, man, I applaud that strategy, because if there's any guy that knows how to implement warfare-like strategy in terms of legal proceedings, it's this guy. I mean, if you listen to him talk on the Joe Rogan show a few months ago, he talked about how I think he used to participate in 5-layered chess.
Oh my goodness. So he even beats Trump and his 4D chess.
Yeah, 4D chess. He went to the fifth dimension, yo. He's time traveling while playing chess. I think that's how it works. I'm not a physicist, but yeah, it seems much like with people like Jordan Peterson. They sort of fucked with the wrong guy. They think that this is just a white guy, a conservative white guy that doesn't toe our party line. We could just push him out the side, and society will back us up. Well, no, apparently not. You just, by suppressing one particular part of society that has worthwhile opinions to offer in respect to issues involving social justice, they come back and they seek horrific revenge. And that's exactly what James Damore is doing here. He's, like you said, Karen, he's seeking out all the possible legal ramifications that he can to get back at this unwarranted injustice.
I think he sees the exposure, he's going for the biggest exposure bang for his buck, in terms of, how he's approached this and what torts or statutes he's suing under, he's essentially saying, I'm going to give up some of my chances of winning in order to actually really give Google the public dressing down that it deserves. And I would just like to say, I don't know that James Damore is a conservative. I really don't. I mean, he seems fairly progressive to me, but it's essentially, it's a matter of being a progressive who lives in the real world, right? You want progress, but you live in the real world where men and women are different biologically and psychologically, and where, there's no way to orchestrate a situation in which all outcomes are going to be equal without inflicting enormous amounts of injustice against individuals. And so, I think he's a pragmatic progressive.
Exactly. Look, sorry to interrupt you, Kara, but if you read the actual fucking memo that he sent out, you'll see that he is actually trying to argue for diversity. He's trying to figure out more ways to get more women and more minorities involved with the Google process. It's just that the way that he wants to do it is without discriminating against the people that are there and the races and genders that they have, which tend to be straight white men, right? But no. We gotta, by trying to enforce diversity, we gotta keep in mind that this is actually all about power, and while doing this, we also gotta take down the patriarchy. Yeah, except by doing that, you're gonna go fuck yourselves over, and you're gonna fuck everybody else over by proxy, and it's just not gonna be a good time for anybody. Not at all.
Well, and what I think is striking is how incoherent the other side of the argument is, in terms of, okay, well, so we cannot accept or act upon the suggestion that women have different preferences on average, and that in order to attract more women into Google, what you should do is you should essentially, put out promotional campaigns, essentially saying, we have jobs that women would like, right? Okay. And recruit women into those jobs, right? And then you could have more women, right? Okay, so that they're going from the argument that is completely beyond the pale to even suggest that, but at the same time, they are saying that women don't feel comfortable at Google. Women don't feel comfortable in this male-dominated space. Well, if gender was completely socially constructed, women could just learn how to be comfortable around men and the way men behave, right? And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In any given situation, you're going to have 10 to 15, maybe 17, up to 17% of women who have an affinity for masculine spaces, and between 10 and 17% of men who have an affinity for feminine spaces and feminine ways of doing things. And so you're going to have a small percentage, under 20%, of men who would go into, a female-dominated field that's very, very tailored to the female way of doing things. And they're going to feel comfortable there. And same with Google. You're going to have 10 or 15% of your employees being women, feeling just fine in that space as it exists with all those men, right? But once you try and push it above that, right, then all of a sudden, all the normies get in there, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, you must change this space to suit us. Well, suit you based on what? Your biology, your psychological differences, because apparently you don't have those, right? Or you could socially deconstruct them and get rid of them and adapt to the space. So why the fuck are you making these demands, right? And so, it's just absolutely bizarre, because they're basing their demands to change the space, do the anti-bias training, do the, all of these things, all of these diversity initiatives. So much of them are designed to completely reconstruct the atmosphere in the company, right? To suit a specific group of people based on their biologically, biological in origin, psychological differences from the people who are already there. And I will say again, in tech, this is absolutely fucking retarded and stupid, and it's bigoted, because in tech, you have a very, very high percentage, disproportionately high percentage of people operating in that space, whether they're men or women, who are on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And so when normie women come in, and start demanding that all of these people just change everything to suit them, it's like an able-bodied woman walking into a room full of guys in wheelchairs and saying, your wheelchairs make me feel uncomfortable, get rid of them.
Oh, and I fucking know that the thing that pisses me off the most is that these social justice advocates, they love to go after people with autism. And I know, because I have high-functioning autism, and I've had to deal with these euphoric, mindless, cackling cunts my entire life. People trying to say, oh, well, he's creepy. Well, maybe the fact that I just can't look you in the eye is a product of my biological inheritance. It's not because I have any ill will towards you, you dumb twits. Stop saying that I'm trying to oppress you with my patriarchy-ness or whatever you want. I
find it hilarious that they're like, oh, he won't look directly at me. So now I'm going to complain that he's not inflicting his male gaze.
It's almost like you can't win.
You can't. Yeah. You absolutely can.
It's like, okay, do we go with James's way of doing things and, inflict the patriarchy, or do we go with our understanding of the world and absolutely get nothing done? There's no more diversity because we just can't accept the fact that on some level, people's personalities are at least partially influenced by our biological temperament. I know that makes me sound like a Nazi the first second I say it, but if you just realize that I'm just doing it because the way that people are influenced by different hormones, testosterone, estrogen, the way that influences in conjunction with the way we're socially conditioned, then you realize that no, I'm not trying to keep women or men away from doing the things that they want to do. I'm just saying that when it comes to these realities, you got to work in conjunction with them to make a better work environment for everybody.
I think you're just trying to defend your Nazism by saying you were born that way, Max.
But that makes no sense. I'm a Simpsons-kin. I would be the first fucking killed within the Fourth Reich. Why would I be... it makes no sense. It's almost like... what's the Simpsons-kin equivalent of being an Uncle Tom or a Coon or... I don't know. Just, like, advocating for the enemy.
I have no idea. You know, I'm not really up on my Simpsons-kin lore.
Well, you should.
So, but, yeah, I probably should read up on it. But I'm just happy that he's actually doing this and that a former senior vice president actually came out and made a statement supporting his contentions in this lawsuit. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely wonderful. I mean, because she's high up there and, you know, like she's no longer there anymore. So her job's not in jeopardy. And, you know, maybe it can be argued that she has a grudge against the company if she was dismissed or something like that. But I think that, the fact that, you have somebody who was in a position that senior, corroborating what he's saying here. I think that's excellent. And I know that, like, cause I watched a V video earlier today, and he went into some of the screenshots, I guess, that were included in the lawsuit. And I'm going to have to read the whole thing, top to bottom, front to back, at some point. But, you know, like some of the stuff that, I mean, it really is just, like Google went into universities and chose, you know, like everybody with blue hair, everybody with facial piercings, and everybody who identifies as non-binary and said, come work for Google, and then allowed them to take over. Right. And, you know, or they did like recruiting from, you know, directly from the evergreen, you know, black and gender studies classes, right? Like that's what some of these people look like. And I'm absolutely blown away by some of the level of martyrdom in some of these comments that they write, that, you know, that voting for Trump or not voting for Trump, but the mere suggestion that someone could have a reason to vote for Trump that is not based on hate of other people, that is maybe just based on something that is valid. Okay. Right. That suggestion itself endangers minorities. It endangers the lives of minorities, right? And it's just like, and so how dare you say it? How dare you say that someone who voted for Trump doesn't necessarily want black people to die? Like, I mean, this is really what we're getting down to in terms of the level of melodrama and martyrdom. It's like this old movie called The Ref. It was a Dennis Leary, Kevin Spacey
love that
movie.
Yeah.
Right? And when Kevin Spacey, when his mother says, how dare you talk to me that way? Blah, 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 blah. And he says, you know, Mom, next Christmas, you know what I'm going to get you? I'm going to get you a big wooden
fucking cross. Yeah.
And we're going to put it up on the wall so that anytime you feel put upon or like anybody's being mean to you, you can just crawl yourself up there and crucify yourself, right? Nail yourself to it.
I fucking hate her, Lloyd.
Right.
I fucking hate her.
Yeah. It's... I mean, because it's just like the level of martyrdom, especially with people who, I mean, and it is this sort of vindictive fragility that Jonathan Haidt started talking about in that article, The Coddling of the American Mind, right? Mm-hmm. Where it is a cultivated sense of fragility and martyrdom, that you are the victim and you are fragile and you need sheltering, right? But it's accompanied by this vindictiveness where anybody who doesn't give you that, right, it's their fair game to go after, like go right at their throat and rip them apart and destroy their life if you can, right? And I think Ian Miles Chong got caught up in all of that and got carried, he just got carried along with it, and then he just stopped and looked around and went, what the fuck am I doing? Right? And so, it's just like, and when you see what's going on just in the broader culture, right, with the Me Too thing, and then, Oprah's, new hashtag Time's Up or whatever over that, and all of this, like powerful men dropping like flies, mostly on the left, and you got the right just rubbing their hands together, cheering it on. Okay, Al Franken had to step down. Oh, great, like here's another lefty getting accused of some kind of untoward stuff and having to lose his job or whatever, right? But I don't think that most people realize just how dangerous the situation is, that it is really a powder keg, and part of that's social media, part of it's the mainstream media. And, do we really want another 100+ prosecutions of people for things that we 10, 15 years later discover that they didn't do? Right? Like we had with the child sex abuse hysteria that began with McMartin Preschool, right? Like it really sucks that humans are psychologically primed to run with hysterias, to run with these kind of moral panics, and to not stop and look around until so many bodies have piled up. You start to scratch your head and go, okay, like, so was every one of these people a Nazi? Well, there's Aunt Esmeralda. Like, was she actually a Nazi? But because she's like lying in the big pile of bodies.
Esmeralda?
I don't know. I was just thinking,
the gypsy from Hunchback of Notre Dame?
It's a girl's name, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I think if anybody is not going to be a Nazi, it'd be a gypsy named Esmeralda.
Well, not all Esmeraldas are gypsies,
Oh, okay, yes. I suppose that's the Nazi side of me that you're pointing out.
There you go.
I'm just joking, ladies and gentlemen. It's a joke.
But I didn't even make the. I just thought of some elderly.
It's a pretty name. It's a pretty name.
It is a very pretty name. I should have named my daughter Esmeralda. But yeah, like I think that and lawsuits like this actually can hold these places to account. Like I was talking to someone just today, and she asked, like, so how do you think feminism should be talked about, right, in the current culture? And I said, well, what I'd really like to see is more actual smart commentary, like, and not not smart in the sense of I proved you made a logical fallacy or whatever, but actually going into the meat of the ideas, and doing it in academia, doing it in the political sphere, doing it in the places where the feminist theories and feminist narratives are being spread, and they go largely unchallenged. But those are the places where they need to be challenged, and they need to be challenged vigorously and intelligently and without ad hominems. Sure, it's funny when Rush Limbaugh says, feminism is just a way for ugly women to get into the mainstream. Sure, it's funny. Maybe it's even a little bit true. I don't know, but it doesn't actually say anything about the ideas, and I think the ideas are wrong-headed, and the ideas are what are leading us down a path to something really unpleasant. So, and
it certainly seems like James Damore is going about it in that right way, like you just said there, Karen. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us here at Honey Badger Radio. Thanks so much for joining us on this particular episode of Breaking Badger News. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We do tons of videos every single day, pretty much every single day here at Honey Badger Radio. So if you want to see stuff like this, the live streams that we do, whether it's HBR News, HBR Talk, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's right there. I promise you, it'll be worth your while. If you want to help us out beyond that, just hit that like button. Honestly, it helps us out more than you think. It tells the YouTube algorithm that our content is worth watching. If you want to offer your opinions, make sure you put them down below, whether you agree or disagree with anything that Karen and I have said. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And speaking of Karen, I want to thank her for coming on and doing this show with me on such short notice. And until next time, have a lovely, lovely day.